Ladies and gentlemen, this is Trailblazer Television. I'm your executive director, Kennardo Greg James. Man, do we have a special guest today. She is a native of Houston, Texas. She is certified life coach, author, accomplished compliance consultant, lawyer, political strategist, and leadership trainer. She holds a BA in political science from Texas State University and a Juris Doctor from Southern University Law Center. She's the executive director of Vision Walkers, a 501c4 dedicated grassroots political action organization. And last but not least, she is a wife and mother of her two sons. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Yladrea Drummond. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. It's good to have you on. I'm really excited about this one. I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the first question. Tell me more about Vision Walkers. Where did the idea come from for this movement? And what's the main objective of this Vision Walkers?
So the two co-presidents, co-founders, there's Craig Conwell and then there's Jason Belton. They felt that there was a gap basically between the streets and the suites is what we call it. So, you know, there is a lack of access, and they want to be able to basically be the political force between those who are active in the political space, the figureheads, people at the party, things like that. And then those who are in the disenfranchised, marginalized communities, they don't reach those areas. People don't let them know the access that they have. Their voice can be heard. They can be involved actively in making differences in their community. But because they don't know about what's going on or how to get started, where to come from, they wanted to be that gap. They wanted to make sure that there's income, there is access to knowledge, there is access to healthcare. So anything that is going to bridge the gap to where there is the misinformed, the people who aren't being reached, they don't have the access, they want to basically be able to bridge that gap. So.
Right. The main focus for a lot of people is the presidential election on November 3rd. However, there are other important elections as well. You have Congress, Senate, sheriffs, school boards, DAs, governors. In your own words, why are these elections just as important as the presidential election?
So for a lot of people, they don't really know that the president is limited in his moves, period. He can't move without the people down ballot. So it all starts from below. If you can tax and you can address and you can access your local government, school board, governors, you know, state senates, state reps, those people are the people who are going to start sending things up. So when they have questions, they send things up, but it starts with the local level because that's how access is. If we look at Congress is so huge right now. That's why the off years people are trying to figure out who's going to run. But when we're in these even years and these people are running for U.S. Senate, U.S. Rep, those are the people that control what the president is really able to do. When we look back and we look at the Obama administration, a lot of people said, what can he do for the African-American community? Why didn't he do much? Well, he had a red Congress. So if it's opposite, if you don't vote in those years to make sure that they can be as effective as possible, or making sure that the people that are in place, whether they're red or blue, are in place that are going for the same agenda, then you won't get things passed that benefit you as a person. So you have to look at what is the benefit. The benefit is that we want things to work in our favor, people who are going to work in our favor. If they're going to push an agenda, they need people behind them to push the agenda. And that's fully down ballot. So Congress, Senate, the sheriffs, look at the situation we have right now when all the George Floyd and all the situations. If we vote these people in. So when you go and you just pick anybody, you haven't researched, you haven't looked, those are the people who make the decisions. Those are the people who are going to present these cases, and those are the people, especially DAs. The DAs are voted in. People don't think about it. We voted these people in. We didn't look. We didn't check their background. We didn't look. And then things happen and we're like, well, why don't they do that? They've always shown this behavior. They were campaigning, we just weren't paying attention. So it's the little factors. The president can't reach down and touch the sheriff and say, hey, don't do that. That's not what he can do. The sheriff and the DA are in control. The DA has the right to choose if they want to bring a case or they don't. It literally is what comes into their desk. They make that total decision. So think about that when you're going. It is very crucial to very much so vote for those people. I was so much more concerned about everybody but the president at this point, because we can get Trump, we can get Biden. It really wouldn't matter if who's underneath them is terrible. So it's like you have to start down ballot. really take your focus. If you haven't had the opportunity to research who you're voting for, if you've already voted, then that's fine. We really are pushing that early voting. But if you have not voted, research these players in the game that are left over that we have to pick, because we don't need another situation like what's going on with Breonna Taylor. We're having to fight for that to even keep getting pushed. It's really insane that we have to do that, but it's the fact that we voted these people in and we didn't pay attention. So this is the time we say we're woke, we need to be really woke, like wake up and really research. So sorry that was long-winded, but that's what I have.
That's right. For those that are on the fence about voting, explain why they should not sit this election out, or any election out for that matter.
So there is a distrust in voting. Of course, we saw what happened in 2016. And so everybody is kind of like, oh, my vote doesn't count. Please do not be on the fence about it. Your vote does count. The fact is that there is always propaganda. There's always things you're going to hear. People are going to try and sway you and say, oh, it won't count. They're going to come down to this. But it's the simple fact that even like the Electoral College, all that kind of stuff that comes in, if we're looking at the presidential, we still voted those people in. So those people are the players. So the vote counts. It might not count in the way you think. It might not count on how you see it. It counts in some way that is going to affect the outcome. Know that these votes do matter, especially down ballot. They're the most precious ones you have. They're going to affect what happens to your kids in schools. It's going to happen in your healthcare rights. As a woman, I'm very nervous about what's going to happen to healthcare. People are having women who are dying at the hands of doctors for giving birth. Like, all of this stuff matters. If you're on the fence, don't be. The vote matters. Okay, it's really not a fence to even worry about straddling. It is one side, and that is you should go vote. And even if that doesn't seem like it's enough, it is a start. So let's start somewhere, and the vote matters. So I would say, don't be on the fence. Hurdle that fence on the side of voting. So.
I like that, hurdle the fence. What has Vision Walkers been doing in the community to gear up for the upcoming election?
So currently we pledged 10,000 Fearless to the polls before Election Day. We do a big statewide initiative where we are making sure we get people to the polls. We have, busing. We're going into the communities, getting people there. Lyft is always available. You can use Lyft for free. People don't know that, but you can. We're encouraging it. We're getting out there, giving people, when people don't know about the access to the absentee, how that worked with the early voting, make sure they had education. We've done a lot of webinars and speaking about how absentee ballot, the ballot works and how that goes, but really we are pushing it out. We have been doing a lot of actual canvassing at this point, going into these communities, telling people about, getting out there to vote, or also like, here is who is in your area that you can vote for. Here's some knowledge on them. So we've been full-fledged ahead. We have a big initiative partner with a group called Path to Redemption on Election Day. We have the 53 passenger type of bus, and we are going to be getting people to the polls on Election Day. So we are very active in voting. There is another group, Amplify Action, that we work with, and they have been doing a lot of the voter registration. And so we kind of like have band together as like a whole there in South Carolina to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward. But it's a huge deal to us, and we are making our efforts, period, across the board. Even like we're conscious of COVID, even in the middle of it, we know that we're getting out here to vote, so we make people safe. We provide masks, anything we need, hand sanitizer to get you there, to make sure that you are able to make sure your vote counts. It's a huge deal, and we really would like everybody to join us in that effort and making sure they get out and vote.
This has been a hot topic of conversation for the last several years. What are your thoughts on reparations for the Black community? We've heard Bob Johnson talk about it. We've heard so many high-end Black folks talking about it. Like, what are your thoughts on it?
Yes, so I am for reparations heavily. I actually am helping with my friend, and she, Rep. Sheila Jackson Lee is doing the reparation bill, the HR 40. And so we actually just filmed like a video on it, like why we were supported, but we can't wait. It's not time to wait. Reparations are past due. We earned them. This country was built on the backs of our ancestors, and it's time that we receive the fruits that they won't ever get to receive. We're still building. It's still being built, and we're still working. We're working too hard at a place that is really already something that we built the foundation for. So why shouldn't we level the playing field? It's not enough just to ask for it. We're not asking, we're demanding. At this point, it is not just enough to ask. I'm demanding it. I think it's necessary. And for those who don't understand, why should they pay us for something? A lot of things don't exist if we didn't do what we did. The sacrifices that our ancestors made for this country, we deserve to be on the level playing field. We are already 10 steps behind. If they start out, just imagine if we were given reparations, just even at the minimum, everybody was giving, there's only like 46% or 46 million Black people in America, I believe, if I'm right. If everybody was given $1 million, just 1 million, that might even spark us to even start at a different level, to where this is right now considered almost a recession. So, and they only say the strong survive. What they really mean is that those who have money can survive. Look at it now. It's easy to weed people out when they are already at a lower start. So imagine us building this place, you benefiting from it. We don't benefit from it. A pandemic hits, and now we're pretty much just left for dead. And I just don't agree with that. We deserve so much more. I'm 100% for reparations. It's not a handout. It's what we deserve. So it's not a handout. Let's not look at it as reparations, handout. No, it's reparations, past due, necessary, and needed. So that's my thoughts.
Point blank, period. That's all there is to it. After the election, what can we as a community do to hold these elected officials responsible? A lot of people are worried about, okay, if I give this person my vote, are they going to stand firm on their promises that they made as far as Joe Biden, Donald Trump, whatever side they decide going? What are your thoughts on that?
Apply pressure. Show up at all times. There are city council meetings. There are school board meetings. Anytime that there is a meeting that has access to the public, show up. If you don't understand it, there are groups like ours, groups like others who are trying to educate people on what this bill means. Ask them to break it down. Ask them for literature that explains it point blank, period, to you. Because they're going to use fancy language. What we consider in law, when I went to law school, fancy language. So it's stuff I'm still confused as to why we spoke in the language that's in the law books. I have to understand it. But if I don't understand it, and I'm taught and trained, imagine somebody who doesn't understand it. So they are already discouraged. So I believe that it needs to be more groups like this, more people who have the knowledge, who have the access to learn, to share, to get out there in the communities and explain what's really going on. Tell them how to get active. You know, you reach one, you teach one. Let's get it active as possible in politics. And also, Black people need to run for office. More of us need to run for office, even just people of color, period. We can't expect just one of us to look like us to do it. It's the access that we need to be getting out there and doing it. But really, we just have to make sure we're applying pressure. We're writing our council. The U.S. reps in the Senate, you can write them, run it up, like keep writing them, pushing pressure, get it part of a movement that's pushing a bill that you might like. Try and start writing your own bill. There are ways that anybody can write their own bill or proposal. And you can find a way to get it. You just have to have a person, you apply enough pressure to your state Senate, state rep, to your U.S. rep, U.S. Senate, get it in front of them. You can keep applying it, keep going at them with it. And eventually somebody will get on your side. And if they do, then that's how things get pushed up to the floor. So you just have to keep trying and getting people around you and make sure you get active. So it's just not stopping there. If there's things that you don't like with police reform, let's get to it. If you think that there's something wrong with the police station, police academy, start being a part of your neighborhood watch. Start telling them we're going to show up, we're going to keep being there, we're going to get active, and we're going to always be watching. I'm not stopping until you do your job. We don't pay you to not do your job. It's almost like when you go to school and they say, you paid for your education, make them work for it. So there's no dumb questions. I used to ask a ton of questions in class. I'm coming to all your office hours. Oh, it's office hours, it's available for me to talk. I'm coming to talk. You know why? Because that's your job. Make them work for it. They want your vote, make them work for it when they get it. That's what I say. You never stop making people work. When they get in there, they're getting paid to do a job. And that is to make sure that you are represented as a person first, and then as a culture, as everybody. They say they want to have a Black agenda, make them work hard and make them prove it to us. But they're only going to prove it if we apply pressure. So when we think back and we say, oh, Obama didn't do enough. A, we didn't vote. B, we didn't apply that pressure. We didn't hold him accountable. Accountability is huge. Hold them accountable by making sure they know that you're not going anywhere.
Oh man, you just said a mouthful. My goodness, man. I'm trying to process all of that right now. What are your thoughts on term limits? I have to say, that's one of the things I agree with Donald Trump with is term limits. That's the only thing I agree with them on. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think that the terms are too long. Definitely people are serving for too long and they need fresh minds every so often. I think we should limit how long, the same way they do with the president. You know, there's 8-year terms, the most you can do. I think that makes sense because it's like, yes, it does take time. I think it's a time frame on change. So I do think that makes sense. Oh, we have 4 years. Okay, they can probably do something in there. But I think if you had to apply term limits, especially like Congress, any elected official, honestly, then it requires them to move faster to make instrumental change. I think because they think they have time, people have gotten comfortable, people have let people sit there for way too long. And also, we are in the times where the generations below us are innovative. They're moving at a different speed. They don't live in the same path. They come up on technology. They've improved so much. And it used to be where people were like, oh, your generation, that is the saddest thing when we underestimate the generations that are coming. They have a lot of bright minds. And I also think that the age to get elected is too high. I don't think that because you're so young doesn't mean that you're wise enough to run for something or to lead. A leader is an effective follower. And I feel like sometimes older people, when they get comfortable, because they're set in their ways, they don't give room for the new wave. And I feel like it should be a mixture. I'm not saying that older people shouldn't be there. They probably have forgotten more than I ever learned. However, I want to be able to know, people need to know that they can be heard at a younger age as well. So I think a mixture of age, smaller term limits is definitely necessary. I don't think that people should be able to be there for 20 plus years and they are still there, but we haven't seen the change that is necessary. Right now, they're saying that we're going through a new civil rights phase or the new civil rights movement. No, it's always been there. It's just people are fed up. And this is a new generation like, oh, well, that didn't work. Like, let's try something new, So that's always room for that. And if somebody's been there for 20 years, let's imagine how much change how much change in their mind do they really have? How much room for growth do they really care about? It's kind of become routine. People get content. People get content in a lot of things. And I think that not giving them the pressure of, oh, you only have so many years to get it right causes contentment. And that's where we lose as a country.
Absolutely. How can people get registered to vote, and what are some things they need to be on the lookout for when filling out their ballot? Is there anything suspicious they need to look out for? Or what are your thoughts? What's some wisdom that you can share with us?
So, in the state of Texas where I am, they have a lot of, they send you a lot of stuff telling you like, hey, you're not registered. They'll remind you. So you'll know you haven't registered, or if you have, they want to make sure you go to I think it's like iwillvote.com. You have that, but your state, the Secretary of State typically has it on their website to where you can figure out how to register to vote. Any state, I know that's how it goes. And there's a lot of places that have it on their website. I'm pretty sure like Fair Fight, Stacey Abrams has it. I know Amplify Action has it. And they have it on their website. You just click the link to these websites of people, these social groups that actively they're going for voter registration. They have the links. But when you are at the ballot, I will say this. It was different. So like we're really showing out in Texas right now. They have drive-ups. They're not playing in here, especially Houston. They're making sure that you're going to be able to vote no matter what. But in my county, I thought it was a little odd that in the local level, you really can't tell who is Democrat or not. So if you really don't know who is what, they don't put that. They just have a name. So if you haven't really followed it, you could possibly get thrown off. And then some it'll say, oh, just skip. So like when it gets to the local levels, it tells you can skip. Like, oh, you don't have to vote for that person. You don't have to vote for that person. And so you kind of just like, oh, it doesn't matter. But those matter. So just because it says, but what I loved about my county, there was a woman outside and she was like, hey, you can't use your phone, but you can take this card up there. And here is all the people who are Democrats. And then like, it was like one that all the people who are Republicans. So you'll know who you're looking at when you get in there. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I thought that was helpful, because had I have not, I might have been on the fence. I wouldn't even have known. I moved to this county, so it was new, and I was used to voting in my other county, so I was aware of who was running, but I was kind of on the fence here because I didn't know enough. But they don't provide you with literature. You obviously can't use your phone. So if you don't know that person is a Democrat or a Republican, sometimes you can possibly be voting off. Also, things to be aware of is each county will have at the end, you're voting on little laws. You'll see like little, section such and such of this county code. Would you take your time, don't skip them, read them, because some of them are egregious and outrageous. Some of them, when I read, it was saying that they wanted to basically have an extended amount of time to be able to, it was something about criminal stuff. And it was like about extended amount of time of how they could actually hold you, like how long they could hold you in place without actually having something against you. And I was like, if you don't read that and you just click it, you might be voting for something that could really hurt you in the end. And most of those little bitty tiny laws, the laws are always shifted down to the state, but not only the state, they're local level. So the people think, okay, it's federal. Yes, federal trumps state, but they have a right to reserve it for the state, and not only reserve it for the state, but for local law. Pay attention to those last questions and really read them. And I know if you don't understand them, that sucks. But before you go and vote, go ask what laws are going to be voted on. Please go ask, because you'll have time for somebody to explain it to you. I'm lucky enough to know the law, to be able to interpret that quickly in that moment. But I thought it was my duty to make sure that I voted correctly in that, because I know who it typically affects is Black and brown people. And I wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be missing out because I didn't read and I just voted whatever, or I skipped it. Because a skip is almost as if you voted no, or you voted, it could really, really screw up the vote. So please pay attention. That was long-winded, but pay attention.
Pay attention, man. That's what we got out of that. Well, Dr. Drummond, where can they follow you on social media or website or whatever you may have?
So as far as Vision Walkers, we are on social media as Vision Walkers on Facebook. We don't have an Instagram right now, but for myself, Instagram, it's IM.Yladrea_D. Really and truly, guys, if you type in my name, my first name, you will find me. I'm the only one in the US. Period. You're going to find me. So you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, even Twitter. And yeah, that's what. And if you want to email me, it's Yladrea Drummond, Yladrea.Drummond@visionwalkers.org.
Dr. Yladrea Drummond. All right, I kind of caught myself right there. But hey, enjoyed having you on. Learned a lot of stuff myself. And man, I look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.